I just wanted to relate how we got involved with the insurance cases as relates to the Armenian genocide. I was reading the memoirs of Ambassador Morgenthau, ambassador to the Ottoman Empire, and in his memoirs, all at once I noticed a place where he said he had a meeting with Talhat Pasha, the Minister of Interior at the time in the Ottoman Empire, and Talhat had mentioned the fact that he wanted the names of all the Armenians who had obtained insurance, primarily because he said all the Armenians are dead, they have no heirs, there are no heirs alive, and it's the government that cheats as the heirs. So he wanted the names. Morgenthau immediately was unhappy. He left the meeting. He said, "You are not going to get such a list from me." I really jumped out of bed as I was reading in bed, and I said, "There is a list, so I have to find this list." So the next morning I wrote a letter to the Secretary of State and George Shultz saying this is the story during the First World War, Armenians and so on, and here is Morgenthau's statement, and I want this archives list. Interestingly enough, he immediately responded to me and said that, you know, he was referring the letter to the National Archives in the United States, and that he wanted them to respond to me. And they did respond to me saying, "Can you give us a little more detail, what insurance companies, what years, and so on?" And I immediately responded to them. A couple of weeks later, they said they were ready. They had looked at the archives, and if I sent them a check for $170.20, they would be more than happy to put all this information in a tape and send it to me, and which is I did. I made an immediate payment, and I received the tape. It was about a little over 600 pages, and it was the story of Armenian families making payments and Armenian families asking questions about how to extend the insurance. And I was really flabbergasted to know that right in front of my eyes I could see the Armenian community buying policies from New York Life. Well, now that we had the facts for a lawsuit, we really needed a law to give us a background on the basis of which we had to file this lawsuit.
How many people?
13,000 people. So there were 13,000 names in there. So what we did is we decided to go ahead and make a new legislation. I asked the advice of the former governor of California, George Deukmejian, who is a lawyer, and we discussed the law, and he said that the best person to get in touch with is Chuck Puchikian, a state senator. Presently he's a judge, but at the time he was a state senator, and on that basis we put legislation. The legislation says anyone who had purchased life insurance during the territory of the Ottoman Empire during the years 1915-1923, they have a right to file a lawsuit in California, and it should be filed within 10 years. So we didn't wait. A month later, we filed a lawsuit against New York Life, and there was a lot of publicity. One, because it was an unusual law. We are going back 90 years to file a lawsuit on an incident that happened. And at the same time, the Armenian community was aroused that somehow it's the first time that on a genocide case is being implemented into the court system. It took 5-6 years for the various stages and the various levels of the federal court system. I have to explain that in California, in the United States, we can file class lawsuits. And class lawsuits, we need about 40 people who pertain to that class, but the lawsuit is usually filed in the name of 3-4 families. And we had over 10,000 names, so there was no problem. And we filed a lawsuit. And as usual, we settled the lawsuit, you know, going various stages. They gave us various amounts of money and so on. until finally, when they came with $20 million, we decided that this was a substantial fund. Our plaintiffs accepted the funds. The lawyers felt this was a good sum. The judge agreed that this was a good sum. And then the commissioner of insurance also looked at it and said that this was a fair sum. That's why we settled the case. As soon as we were over with the New York Life, I had a list of about 20 insurance companies that were doing business in the Ottoman Empire. The next one was the largest insurance policy seller in the Ottoman Empire, L'Union V, which was bought out by an insurance company called AXA. So I filed a lawsuit against AXA, and that one, because we had a precedent with the New York Life, it moved much faster, and the case was eventually settled for $17.5 million. The reason we are here is because in the case of New York Life, everything worked smoothly. But in the case of AXA, there were matters that I feel should be brought to the attention of the community, and there were sums of money that were stolen. And this is the main reason I want to explain to the Armenian community what these losses were, because I feel silence in the face of evil is evil. Not to speak is to speak. Not to take action is to take action. So I've decided to take action and to inform our community of what took place. How do we find a solution is always a question that has bothered me and has bothered the settlement board. We have had constant discussions what we can do. As far as the court was concerned, they were very quick trying to close this deal. They just didn't want any of these scandals to come out and so on, because some of them were involved in it, and to cover it up is to close it and so on. Fortunately, there are a couple opportunities open. One is the settlement board is still working with the AXA insurance company. As shareholders, they're going to show up at the shareholders meeting and bring up this issue as to why AXA is not looking into this matter. The corporation, for them, this is not a significant amount of money, so they don't want to antagonize the Armenian community, because some people will be unhappy as to why these issues were brought up. So they figure we're satisfied, we are happy, but we'll see what that happens. On the other hand, a lawsuit has been filed against me that I have not given the money that I should have given to the French charity. I find that incredibly interesting, because I have given it to French charities, and the complaint, they say that there were no such charities and so on. That's one. Number two, my view is this gives me an opportunity to bring all these people in court so that I can show the documents of how they were trying to pull a fraud. They want to come to court, I'll be more than happy. I've already subpoenaed their names. I've not only subpoenaed them, I've subpoenaed their wives, I've subpoenaed their children, because the monies they steal, they put it in the name of the wife or the children. So they should come and testify. I'll be more than happy. I find it abhorrent, that we should remain silent, because it's a typical Armenian concept that we shouldn't tell other people about our dirty laundry. I think we have to show our dirty laundry, and the quicker we show our dirty laundry, the next generation, other people will not dare to try and steal money from Armenian organizations. What I find more significant, this is not just an organization where you're giving money for children or for school or for refugees and so on. This is the link to the Armenian genocide. And I think there should be some sanctity in this process. There should be some sanctity in the fact that there was a legal resolution to this problem. And people who don't understand that, they don't understand the pain of the Armenian genocide.